morning, Moms for Liberty. First, let me just start by saying thank you so much to Tiffany and to Tina for the invitation. I'm thrilled to be here, but thank you in particular for founding Moms for Liberty and creating this community. It really is, it's a thing we all needed before we even know we needed it. And I want to also thank every one of you for being here, because that's what builds a community. And, you know, Tina said I'm in the belly of the beast. It's true. in New York City, and this is a rough barometer because, as Tiffany was speaking to, party affiliation doesn't tell you everything about somebody, but it's a rough barometer. And in New York, Democrats outnumber Republicans 7-1. In our city, and in places where I live, that number's even higher. And so what does that mean, and why is it important? It means that, and I learned this the very, very hard way, you have to think before you speak, and the thing you have to think is, am I going to offend the powers that be? Am I going to say something that I'm not allowed to say? And earlier this week, I was in federal court for my second federal court case, because I keep saying things I'm not supposed to say. And just for those of you who don't know, I'll give you a super quick recap. Pre-COVID, when I joined my community board, my education council, I joined my community board first, but I joined my education council, which is what we call school boards in New York. And as Tiffany, I think I only had 3 kids when I first joined, but now I have 4 kids. And I was concerned about the quality of the education, because all the conversation was about getting rid of advanced level classes and getting rid of what we in New York call our specialized high schools, which are schools, STEM schools, where kids who do really well in STEM subjects and want to study hard can go and get a first-rate education. Saying that's a good thing and we should keep it is not racist. It's not even a bad idea. It's a really good idea. We should elevate the education of kids in all schools, in all cities. But in the particular moment in time, and that moment has lingered, you'll still get that accusation, the argument from the Democratic Party faithful in New York City was that the way to be anti-racist or not racist was to get rid of our gifted and talented programs, to get rid of any kind of academic differentiation between kids. I thought it was a bad idea. I wrote a resolution. I passed a resolution. I talked about it. And as a result, my employer wrote a vicious, horrible letter that I can laugh at today, but at the time was really painful. Called me a racist. All 10 of my immediate bosses, the head of the organization, the head of HR, the head of the union, everybody agreed I was a racist. And the thing that I had done is defend our public school students' right to get a high-quality education. I went to federal court on that case and I lost it. The judge agreed that that my employer shouldn't be calling me racist because they had said explicitly that as a white woman I had a duty. Well, it turns out the duties that we have as citizens don't depend on our skin color. So the judge was wrong about that. But the judge said it wasn't severe or pervasive, which was a standard that I had to meet for this workplace harassment case. If you're living it, it is pretty severe and pervasive and pretty awful. And so, you know, the judge was wrong about that, but we abide by judges' decisions. I'm back in court now, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. But first, I want to say that last night I was talking to some of the wonderful women that were here, and I see January sitting right in front of me, and I was talking about what it means to be a change maker in New York, where people are afraid to speak up. Because I have so many people come to me and say, Maude, we agree with you about that, we agree with you about gender ideology, we agree with you about schools, but I can't risk speaking up, I can't risk saying this. And I said to January, you know, I understand it because I was clobbered early on, and it's really hard to live through that. And January said, well, and I said, there's real risks to people, and I understand it. People need to keep their jobs. I really do understand it. And January said to me, there is real risk, Maude, to speaking up. But she said, there's more risk to not speaking up. And I thank January for saying that to me last night because I needed to hear it. It was really important. And that's why it's so important to be a change maker. It's important to build capacity in your community. And what I do, and I try to speak the truth, and I try to speak up and say true things, the people that come to me and say, I agree with you, they need to see someone in their community speaking up. And when Rob Schneider said to Tiffany last night, what Moms for Liberty is doing is building leaders in our communities, that's exactly right. And that's what's so important about this organization, is that the people in our communities, they can tune into this live stream right now. I know there are people that are tuning in just because they hate me so much. They love to complain about the things I say. Hi, guys. But the other people in the community, the people who agree, the people who know that things are wrong, that things are not the way they want them to be in their community, they need to not just tune into a live stream or hear national politicians, they need to hear from you. They need to hear from the people who are on the sidelines at their kids' games. They need to hear from people in the PTAs, in their kids' school. It's so important. And I know that because after that initial round of speaking up in public schools, I created an organization to champion high-quality education. And we've now gone through several rounds of school board elections in New York since that time. And in the last round of elections, we won 40% of the seats citywide. And New York had, thank you guys, and we won 100% of the seats in some of the councils and some of our citywide councils, because New York has we have 1 million kids in our school system, or we did pre-COVID. We've dwindled a little on the numbers, but we have this very big school system and we have all these school boards. And so what we were able to do is show that it's okay to stand up and advocate for the kind of schools you want your kids to go to, and it gives people, it encourages people and it lets people join you and speak up. Now, of course, speaking up for high-quality schools is one thing, but what happened is we then had to keep speaking up. We had to start speaking up to open our schools, to unmask our kids, to stop vax mandates for our kids. We've now had to start speaking up to say, we don't want gender ideology in our kids' schools. And that's a tricky one in New York, because New York City is all in. Despite the wins that we've had, and I'm going to wrap up here, despite the wins that we've had, we have some setbacks and losses. And I mentioned I'm back in court, and I'm going to tell you why. I was removed from my school board. Our chancellor does not tolerate moms like me, moms like all of us, speaking up and saying things like, this is one of the things that got me in trouble, there's no such thing as trans kids. Yeah. It's true, and it's really important to say because it defends our kids, but they don't want to hear it. I was removed under a hate speech provision from our council, and I'm fighting it in court. And actually, my attorney, Alan Gura, who's here from the Institute for Free Speech, who I'm so grateful to for the great work that they're doing, he's going to be speaking about Title IX later, and I encourage you all to go hear him speak because he's fantastic, and he's defending me and 2 other parents who are being harassed for saying what we know is true and saying what we know is important. So I'm going to close by saying that back when, before I found this amazing community of joyful warriors to join and to be a part of, when I was feeling very, very alone, I read this book called Live Not by Lies by Rod Dreher, and it's an amazing book. And that phrase, live not by lies, comes from Alexander Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago. Archipelago, Gulag, or Gulag? Which way, James? Archipelago, Gulag. Got it. And that book really moved me when I read it. And the thing that moved me the most, that really went straight to my heart, was this idea that Americans have become a nation where people whisper, right? Where people say to each other, oh yeah, I don't think it's racist either. Or, well, I don't think all this trans stuff is so good, but you whisper it to the people that agree with you because you know that in a community that's deep blue, like so many of us have to do our battles in, that it's dangerous, or it carries a cost to say it out loud. And so what I want to say to all of us here is it's so crucial that we stop whispering, that we say in a full, loud voice what we know is true. And it's really crucial that we all do it in our communities so that we can build that capacity of our communities for other people to stop whispering as well. Thank you very much to all of you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do.